Today, we're diving into a true crime tale that's as sinister as it gets. It's the chilling story of Judy Buenoano, a woman who became known as the Black Widow and made history as the first woman in Florida to meet her end in the electric chair. Imagine this: a seemingly normal woman living in the Sunshine State of Florida. But behind that facade was a dark and twisted mind, capable of unspeakable horrors. Judy Buenoano's story is a tangled web of murder, deceit, and betrayal. She wasn't just a killer, she was a master manipulator who used her charm to lure in her victims. Her own son, Michael Buenoano, fell prey to her deadly schemes. But it didn't stop there. Buenoano's list of victims grew longer, with her husband James Goodyear and another boyfriend, Bobby Joe Morris, meeting tragic ends. Join us as we delve into the twisted mind of Judy Buenoano and uncover the shocking truth behind her reign of terror. This is one true crime story you won't want to miss. Before we dive into her crimes, let's start by peeling back the layers of her dark past and uncovering the events that shaped her into the notorious Black Widow. Judy Buenoano, born Julius Welty, came into this world on April 4, 1943, in the small town of Quanah, Texas. She was the third of 4 siblings, growing up alongside 2 older siblings and a baby brother named Robert. But her childhood was far from idyllic. Tragedy struck early for Judy when her mother passed away when she was just 4 years old. After her mother's death, Judy and her younger brother were sent to live with their grandparents. But life took a turn when her father remarried, and they moved to Roswell, New Mexico, to live with him and his new wife. Judy described her father and stepmother as abusive, claiming they subjected her to unimaginable cruelty. She alleged that they starved her and forced her to work as their slave. These years of torment took a toll on Judy, leading to a breaking point at the age of 14. In a moment of rage, Judy lashed out at her father, stepmother, and 2 stepbrothers, resulting in a violent altercation. This incident landed her in prison for 2 months, a period of time that would shape her future in ways she couldn't have predicted. Upon her release, Judy made a pivotal decision. Instead of returning to her toxic home environment, she chose to attend reform school. It was here that she found a glimmer of hope and a chance at a new beginning. Judy graduated from reform school in 1960, a significant milestone that marked her transition into adulthood. But Judy's troubles were far from over. In 1961, at the age of 18, she gave birth to her illegitimate son, Michael. The circumstances surrounding Michael's birth remain shrouded in mystery, but his arrival marked a turning point in Judy's life. Despite the challenges she faced, Judy refused to let her past define her. She pursued a career as a nursing assistant, a role that allowed her to care for others while concealing the darkness within. As we peel back the layers of Judy Buenoano's past, it becomes clear that her upbringing was riddled with trauma and abuse. These early experiences would shape her into the woman she would ultimately become, a calculating killer capable of unspeakable acts. In 1962, Judy married Air Force officer James Goodyear, and the couple settled in Orlando, Florida, where they built a life together with their children. But beneath the facade of a happy family, a sinister plot was unfolding. A few months after James returned from a tour of duty in Vietnam, he fell ill with mysterious symptoms and was admitted to the hospital. Despite the efforts of medical professionals, James passed away, leaving behind a grieving family. Judy collected a substantial sum from his life insurance policies, but this was just the beginning. Later that same year, tragedy struck again when Judy's house caught fire. Once again, she collected a hefty insurance payout, adding to her growing wealth. But these incidents were just the tip of the iceberg. In 1973, Judy began a relationship with Bobby Joe Morris, a man from Colorado. She moved with her children to be with him, but their happiness was short-lived. Bobby Joe soon fell ill with mysterious symptoms and was admitted to the hospital. Doctors released him, but he collapsed at home and died shortly after. Judy collected yet another insurance payout, cementing her reputation as the Black Widow. But Judy's thirst for wealth and power knew no bounds. In 1979, her son Michael became severely ill, exhibiting symptoms of paraplegia. Despite his condition, Judy took Michael out on a canoe trip where tragedy struck. The canoe overturned, and Michael, weighed down by his arm and leg braces, drowned. Judy collected a significant insurance payout following his death, adding to her growing fortune. Following Michael's death, Judy opened a beauty salon and began dating John Gentry, a businessman from Florida. The couple became engaged, and Judy convinced John to take out life insurance policies on each other. She also convinced him to take special vitamins, which, unbeknownst to him, contained deadly substances. In 1983, John was on his way to a liquor store when his car mysteriously exploded. He survived, but was severely injured. During his recovery, police began to uncover discrepancies in Judy's background, leading to further investigation. It was discovered that she had been giving John pills containing arsenic and paraformaldehyde, leading to his illness. Further investigations revealed a pattern of deadly deception. Exhumations of the bodies of Michael Goodyear, James Goodyear, and Bobby Joe Morris showed that all had been given arsenic, leading to their untimely deaths. Judy had received substantial life insurance payouts after each death, adding to her growing wealth. The pieces of the puzzle were finally falling into place, and Judy Buenoano's reign of terror was coming to an end. Hospitalized for 12 days, beginning December 16th, Gentry noted that his symptoms disappeared when he stopped taking the vitamins. Even so, he was not suspicious enough to break off his relationship with Judy in the interest of survival. As detectives dug deeper, they learned that Buenoano had been spreading false rumors about Gentry having a terminal illness since November 1982. To add to the intrigue, Buenoano had recently booked tickets for a world cruise that included herself and her children, but conspicuously excluded Gentry. This revelation was enough for Gentry, and he handed over several of the special pills his wife had been giving him. Chemical analysis of these capsules revealed that they contained paraformaldehyde, a poison with no legitimate medical uses. However, despite this damning evidence, the Florida state attorney declined to file charges of attempted murder due to what was deemed insufficient evidence to prosecute. On July 27th, county officers and federal agents executed a search warrant at Buenoano's home in Gulf Breeze. During the search, they recovered wire and tape from her bedroom that appeared to match the materials used in the Gentry car bomb. After the botched attempt on John Gentry's life, Judy was arrested at her beauty shop on charges of attempted murder. However, the charges didn't stop there. In January 1984, she was indicted for first-degree murder in the death of her son, Michael, and an additional count of grand theft for the insurance scam. This marked a major turning point in her life, as she was arrested that very evening. The wheels of justice began to turn, albeit slowly. The investigation into the source of the dynamite used in the car bomb that targeted John Gentry led authorities to an Alabama buyer who was linked to Judy through phone records showing a dozen long-distance calls to him from her home. Despite making bail on the attempted murder charge, Judy's troubles were far from over. Bobby Joe Morris was exhumed on February 11th, with arsenic found in his remains. Identical results were obtained with the exhumation of James Goodyear on March 14th, 1984. The pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together, and Judy's trial in the first murder case, Michael's, began on March 22nd. She was convicted on all counts 9 days later. On June 6th, the judge handed down a life sentence without the possibility of parole for the first 25 years. The month of July saw authorities in Florida exhuming the remains of Gerald Dossett, Buenoano's former boyfriend who had passed away in 1980 in a quest for arsenic. However, no charges were filed in this case. A year later, on October 22, 1985, Judy faced trial for the murder of her husband, James Goodyear. The trial lasted a week, with Judy vehemently denying any involvement in criminal activities. However, the jurors were unconvinced, and she was convicted of her second first-degree murder charge. On November 16th, she was formally sentenced to death by the electric chair for the arsenic poisoning of Sergeant James Goodyear, who had returned to Orlando from Vietnam in 1971. In addition to her life sentence for Michael's murder, Judy was also serving a 12-year sentence for the attempted car-bombing murder of John Gentry in Pensacola in 1983. It's worth noting that Florida hadn't executed a woman in 150 years, and only 2 women had been executed in the country since the U.S. Supreme Court allowed capital punishment to resume in 1976. Russell Edgar, who had prosecuted Judy for her son's drowning, likened her to a black widow who preyed on her males and her young. Judy maintained her innocence, claiming that she was the victim of character assassination and defamation. She insisted that the jurors were influenced by manufactured evidence. After her sentencing, Judy Buenoano was transferred to Broward Correctional Center in Pembroke Pines, Florida, where she spent the next 13 years on death row. Despite her grim circumstances, Judy continued to appeal her conviction, resulting in 3 death warrants being issued over the years. Life on death row was far from comfortable. Judy was confined to a tiny cell. Inmates on death row are served meals 3 times a day, with food prepared by prison staff and delivered in insulated carts. Despite the harsh conditions, Judy made the most of her time on death row. She spent her 13 years writing letters, crocheting blankets and baby clothes, and teaching Bible study to other inmates. One of her former fellow inmates, Deirdre Hunt, described Judy as being like a mother to her, showing that even in the darkest of places, kindness and compassion can still shine through. Judy Buenoano's final chapter was a somber one, marked by the grim reality of her impending execution. All executions in Florida take place at the state penitentiary in Stark. Buenoano's last appeal was denied on March 29, 1998, and Governor Lawton Chiles signed her death warrant. She was then transferred to Stark, where she spent her final days in a small cell, watching a small black and white television through the bars in the Death Watch area, adjacent to the execution room. In her final hours, Buenoano saw her adult children, Kim Hawkins and James Goodyear, along with other relatives, legal advisors, and religious counselors. A cousin, Jean Eaton, who visited her before the execution, later said, "She had no fear at all. She's mostly afraid of leaving her children and how upset they were." In a television interview just days before her execution, Buenoano expressed a desire to clear her name for the sake of her grandson, stating, "I would like to clear the record for my grandson. I would like for him to know that his grandmother was not a murderer." On the morning of March 30, 1998, Buenoano was showered and dressed. Her final meal consisted of broccoli, asparagus, strawberries, and hot tea. At 7:02 a.m., she entered the execution chamber accompanied by several guards. Asked if she had a final statement, she replied, "No, sir," and shut her eyes tightly, refusing to look at the witnesses on the other side of the glass partition. She was pronounced dead at 7:13 a.m. In the case of Judy Buenoano, her manipulative and heartless actions resulted in the deaths of her son, husband, and boyfriend, as well as the attempted murder of another. The motive behind these heinous crimes was simply for her own financial benefit, demonstrating a chilling disregard for human life. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. If you found this story intriguing, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more true crime content. Stay curious, stay connected, stay with Reely Unreal.